Excellent. All right. Let us actually begin this time now that I figured out how to turn the chat on. This is your post-summer productivity reset. Your post-summer productivity reset. I'm gonna explain the name of it in just a moment. But you guys probably heard about this. You're probably on my email list, Reagan's Roundup, or maybe a friend shared this with you. But I did want to just quickly just introduce myself in case this is your first thing you've done with us, or maybe you're new to Redeeming Productivity / Reagan's Roundup and you don't know what this is all about. So my name is Reagan Rose. That's a drawing of me, but you can also see my face here. I'm the creator of Redeeming Productivity and Reagan's Roundup, that's the name of the newsletter. And I am a Bible teacher. So I actually am a trained Bible teacher. I got a Master of Divinity from the Master Seminary. And I have been seeking to be productive from a biblical worldview in my own life for a long time. I actually previously served as the director of digital platforms for Grace to You. That's John MacArthur's ministry. And so I've tried to implement this stuff in my own life and really just trying to dig into the word to understand better how we can get more done for God's glory. And that really is my whole shtick, is I write and I speak about personal productivity from a Christian worldview. And so this is how I like to summarize it. I talk about personal productivity from a Christian worldview for the glory of God. It's really that simple. That's what I think this is all about. As Christians, when we think about productivity, it's about how do we do this according to God's word? How do we do it so that God gets the glory? I do this through resources. So like I mentioned, probably a lot of you are on my newsletter. I also have a podcast, YouTube channel. I write articles weekly on this, lots and lots of stuff that I try to put out there to hopefully tip the scales, help more believers learn these biblical concepts and just really common grace, practical things for how to get more done for God's glory. So you can find all that stuff on redeemingproductivity.com. I also write books. I had a book come out earlier this year called A Student's Guide to Gaming. That one's kind of indirectly productivity related. It has to do with how young people, especially, what's the place for playing video games in the life of especially young people, and how do you think about that discerningly, not trying to browbeat people about it, but just being discerning in how you approach it. And then my book, Redeeming Productivity, which same name as my ministry, that's coming out. It's with Moody Publishers. That's coming out in just a couple of weeks. And that's really kind of distills a lot of my whole philosophy, what I think the Bible teaches about productivity for Christians. I also do other stuff besides the free stuff in the books. I have courses and a community. I'll tell you at the end of this a little bit about the community and the courses if you guys want to stick around. But there are some next steps you could take if you wanted to dig in deeper with some of this stuff. So, but the reason you're here is we want to do a post-summer productivity reset. Okay. So the reason I showed this to my wife and she said, why didn't you call it a fall productivity reset? And the reason is because I think that it's summer that kind of does a lot of us in. So I call it the September slump, where you get to this point in the year and you have, been hanging out, you've been relaxing, you've maybe let your hair down a little bit. I don't have a lot of hair left, but I let my hair down in the summer. And, you don't do all the same habits. Maybe you fall off the horse a little bit with things. And then September comes. And so school starts up if you have kids, or if you're a student yourself. People get back from their vacations at work. You do as well. The speed of life kind of starts picking up again, right? And what happens is we get caught flat-footed. At least I do. Every year this time, it's like, oh yeah, I was doing all these great habits and now I've completely fallen off the horse. How do I get back on it? How do I get started again? And so that's what this workshop's all about, is dealing with the September slump, getting back in the swing of things and doing it as Christians. So maybe at this point in the year, you're feeling kind of low motivation. You're feeling like you have a lack of clarity on your goals as all the new projects and stuff get dumped back on your plate. You're like, oh no, where do I begin? Maybe you're just feeling out of practice with your good habits. Maybe some of those have just stopped during the summer. So that's what we're going to try to address in this workshop over the next, 50 minutes here. We're going to deal with a couple things. I want you to leave encouraged from the word of God and with some practical steps so that you don't feel like, hey, you're alone in all this. This is normal. and I want you to walk away encouraged. I want to help you clarify your priorities so that you know what should I work on next. And I want to help give you the tools to reset your habits so you can kind of finish the year strong. So does that sound good? Say sounds good in chat if that sounds good to you. Right on. Excellent, excellent. I love the interaction. That's great. All right, so before we dig into the practical stuff, I always like to zoom way out and think about the big picture, because I think as Christians, we need to think about the big picture. We need to think about why are we even doing this? That's one of the things that separates our vision, our view of productivity from the world is we have a much firmer understanding of the why, and it connects to God and the purpose he has given us. So one of my favorite verses on productivity in the Bible is 1 Corinthians 10:31. So whether you eat or drink or whatever you do, do all for the glory of God. So whether your goal is to mow the lawn today or build $1 million business or just finish that project at work, the driving motivation behind everything we do as believers should be that we're trying to glorify God with our lives. That's the big picture. That's why we want to get our habits reset. That's why we want to make sure that we have clarity on our priorities, because our number one priority is God's glory. This is from the Westminster Shorter Catechism. The first question is, what is the chief end of man? And I love this summary. The answer to it is man's chief end is to glorify God and enjoy him forever. What's chief end mean? It means that's your purpose. That's why you're here. That's why you exist. And like I said, it's easy to forget that in like kind of the mundane stuff of everyday life, especially when you're feeling overwhelmed. But this is the big picture. This is what you're about as a Christian. And so productivity looks like glorifying God more. Now, here's a skeleton. Here's kind of what our problem is. Like when I think about getting back on track, that's when I think about September Slump, I think, how do I get back on track? The question you have to ask yourself is, what does it mean to get back on track? And I would submit to you that back on track means back to having your priorities, your goals, your everyday tasks aligned with that chief end of glorifying God. And so this skeleton is a metaphor. So just like this, you have a spine, right? And if you're feeling lower back pain, that's kind of a warning sign that something might be wrong. If your spine's out of alignment, you're going to feel pain, right? And I think the same way, when we feel that sense of overwhelm, of being busyness, of kind of like freaking out at all the stuff we have to do, that's a God-given alarm system for our spirit, letting us know, hey, you're out of alignment with your purpose. Brian said, FYI, chopped off the head. Yeah, if your head gets chopped off, you have bigger problems than chiropractor can probably solve. But the point is, how do we get things aligned so that all of our life is back on that mission of glorifying God? Okay, that's what we're aiming for. So what we're aiming for here is, what's the needed correction? How do we get back in alignment? And so what we're going to tackle here is three things. We're going to look at how to clarify your priorities. I'm going to give you some practical steps for doing that. We're going to look at how to make a list of all of your commitments so you have some visibility on all the stuff you need to be doing. And we're going to look at how to realign your habits. So those are the three things, the three corrections we're going to deal with today that will hopefully give you kind of a kickstart to get you out of that September slump and finish 2022 strong for God's glory. Okay, so let's look at the first one here. This is going to get really practical. How do we clarify our priorities? How do we clarify our priorities? Well, as you already mentioned, that God's glory is our number one priority. I call this illustration the pyramid of purpose. I use this a lot in my courses and in our Redeeming Productivity Academy. If anyone in there, by the way, in the chat, I'd love to hear anybody who is a Redeeming Productivity Academy member. Could you let us know? Say, hey, I'm a member, or say here, something like that. Because I know there's a lot of you in here right now. But this is really probably going to be familiar to you guys. And this is really helped my thinking a lot on this. How do I actually glorify God? So often we say, oh, I want to glorify God with my life. But what does that mean down at the day-to-day level? This pyramid helps to sort of give you some clarity. It gives you a way to align everything with that. And so God's glory, that feeds into what I call our domains of stewardship. And these are the different areas in our life. I'm going to dig into this a little bit more in a moment. Uh, that's sort of like you divide your life into responsibilities like your health, your spiritual life, all of those different areas that is your responsibility to steward before God. And then those domains inform your goals, right? If I wanted to have a goal in my physical health, maybe to lose some weight or something like that, I'd have a goal, but that would feed into a domain, which would feed into God's glory. Below goals, I have projects. That's how I reach my goal. And then down here, here's the nitty gritty of everyday life. What are the tasks that I'm doing today? What are the habits I'm practicing today? How do those lead all the way back up so that in every moment, whether I'm eating or drinking or working or folding the laundry, that I'm doing all of that to God's glory? That's what this pyramid helps you do, because it all will feed back up. And the ultimate goal is that your life would be a giant arrow pointing towards God. And that is what it's all about, friends. If you're a Christian, you want to be this. This was our design for the beginning. When God created mankind, he created us in his image, that when creation would look at us, they would see a reflection of what God is like. This is our call as believers, to be Christ-like. Our call is that in what we do with these lives, it's all a big flashing arrow towards God's glory. Thanks, Brody. This is one of my favorite quotes. This is actually in my email signature. It's from the Puritan Thomas Watson. "The glory of God is a silver thread which must run through all our actions." Isn't that great? The glory of God is a silver thread which must run through all of our actions. Now, this thread is teal, technically, but you get the idea. That's what we're trying to accomplish. How do we, on a practical, like just a strategic and tactical level every day, trace everything back up to God's glory? That's what the pyramid helps us do. And so that we can shine like lights that bring glory to God. Matthew 5:16, in the same way, let your light shine before others so that they may see your good works and give glory to your Father who is heaven. That's what it's all about, folks. So let's look at the next level down on the pyramid, because this is going to help us to prioritize. We're not going to dig into each of these levels today. We don't have time to get into all of these, but I want to help you with the priorities part by dealing with the domains of stewardship. So this is another thing that members of the Academy will be familiar with, but your domains of stewardship, I've kind of broken them up into 6 main areas of life: your spiritual, your relational, your vocational, your physical, financial, and your recreational. These, to me, it's a helpful way to not divide your life up, but kind of think in broad categories so that you can be asking yourself, am I glorifying God as I ought to in my relationships? Am I stewarding well my finances? Is my job, my vocation, or whatever my main calling is, am I using that the way I should for God's glory? That's what the domains help you do. But one of the problems with summer, and that leads us into the September slump, is we kind of tend to over-index on recreation. At least I do. And I think it's a good thing. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. We should have recreation, rest. God designed us for that. That should be part of what we steward. But because we kind of take a break in the summer, we over-index on recreation, and then the other areas kind of get shoved to the side. And so the trouble is, how do you get back to some sort of equilibrium where everything's getting its proper due? That's what the September slump is you're trying to get everything rebalanced, your portfolio of responsibilities. And just to be clear, doing this, reassessing your priorities, clarifying them, it's not about assigning equal time to each of those domains, right? Some of them, obviously your vocation is going to take way more time than some of those other areas. It's about trying to get close to the appropriate amount of time going to each domain, such that God is being appropriately glorified in that. You're fulfilling your responsibilities in that domain. Yeah, I I feel that, Josh. His summary over-index on work and relationships. Yeah, no, and this can affect people at different ways in the year, depending on how your work is, what your vocation is, and then also other points of the year, you can over-index on other things. And so the principles we're going to talk about in here are going to apply throughout the year. And this illustration here, I'll explain in just a moment, but I'm teaching my youngest son to ride a bike right now. Not a real bike. He has training wheels. He's only 3.5. He's not a prodigy. Um, but even that, riding a bike with training wheels is hard. You think you just need to go in a straight line, but that's not how you ride a bike, is it? If you just held the handlebars rigidly and tried to drive in a straight line, you would tip over. Why? Because you don't think about it once you know how to ride a bike, but you're constantly making micro adjustments. You're constantly making sure that you're tending towards going straight. And I think a lot of times, one of the things we get wrong when we think about priorities, when we think about the different areas of our life and giving them the right amount of attention, is we think everything should be going right down the middle of the road. But that's just not realistic. And this graphic comes from the book The One Thing. He in it is just illustrating a work-life balance. If we were going to draw this with the domains of Stewart, we'd probably have 6 lines on there, right? But the idea is sometimes we go to the extreme on certain things, like recreation in the summer. We go to the extreme and other things get neglected. Sometimes other extremes happen, and then we'll overcorrect, right? And so we zigzag. So in this illustration, the work life stuff or life stuff, or we could say vocation and relationships, a lot of us are this way. We work, work, work till we burn out, and then we drop everything and invest in relationships to recharge. And it's just like this constant yo-yo effect. But the solution to that isn't just trying to make them go right up the middle. That's a pipe dream. It's not going to happen. What it should be more like is like riding a bike where you're counterbalancing all the time. And so the domains of stewardship thing, this clarifying your priorities is something we should be doing all the time. We just kind of a general awareness about what are the things I need to be stewarding well, what are the areas, and what adjustments do I need to make along the way to make sure that each of those areas is getting its proper due. And in certain seasons of life, you're going to go way off to one side and have to correct, and that's okay. But just having an awareness of how those things are going is what's going to allow you to make the necessary corrections. So let me ask you guys a question. I'd love if you're willing to share some answers in the chat. Is you look at this domains of stewardship pie here, which looks delicious. Which area do you think, or areas do you think you're neglecting right now? If you had to pick one or two areas, which ones are being neglected? Just let me know in the chat. Physical, financial, relational, physical, spiritual and physical. Yeah. Physical, recreational, spiritual. Yeah. Recreational, never have time to read. Mm-hmm. No, absolutely. It's interesting. It's different for a lot of people. I've noticed nobody is vocational. Yeah. There are so many different ways that this can kind of get mixed up. Everything but vocational. Yeah. I think a lot of people, that's what it tends to be. And like I said, in different seasons, that's going to be different. That's going to be different for different people. And that's okay. Sometimes one area is going to get overdue or going to get a bunch of attention just because of the circumstances of life. That's okay. We're just trying to make sure that what we're doing is appropriate to our season and to make sure we're doing it well. Now, what about this? Which areas do you think are getting too much attention such that they're pushing others aside? Let me know in the chat, because here's the thing, right? If we give too much attention to one area, this is a zero-sum game. If we're thinking about the distribution of this pie in terms of time, you only have 24 hours. So if one area gets over much of your time balance, it's going to be robbing from other areas. Yeah, some people say recreational, vocational is getting too much. Recreational, vocational. Yeah, a lot of vocational and recreational. Recreational, physical, and vocational. No, very good. Very good. Yeah, this is I'm gonna also, by the way, I will release a video of this. to you guys. I'll send it to the mailing list, and I'm going to give you the slide deck too. So if you're trying to take copious notes or whatever, you can, but I'm going to send you a PDF with all these, so you can look at this as well. Vocational. I like what Brian said. Some of them are just, what happened here? Yeah, it's just a mess. um, Good, sure. Yeah. Let your wrist rest freely. I'll send you all this stuff afterwards. But use this device. I look at this all the time, this little wheel, and just ask these questions. They're simple questions. And that's the thing, guys. It doesn't have to be complicated. When a lot of stuff with productivity and time management, a lot of times we think about apps or like complicated systems, like those are great and they have their place, but sometimes what we need is just a little bit of reflection, simple questions we ask ourselves, simple prayers that kind of help us to get a visual on what are we doing, what's going on right now. So I highly recommend you look at this, and if you jot down your answer to this or just make a mental note of it, because that's what needs to change, right? If an area is being neglected, you got to figure out, where am I going to get time to make sure I'm doing that right? So I'm fulfilling my responsibility. Because I call these domains of stewardship for a reason. In the parable of the talents, right, in Matthew 25, the master assigns to each of his servants a different stewardship, a different number of talents to steward. And these areas of your life are part of your stewardship before God. And so being faithful means treating each of these appropriately. So make the necessary adjustments if any of these are out of whack. Okay, so let's go to the second thing to do. And this has to do with your commitments. So we talked about clarifying your priorities. Now, what about your commitments? So this is related, but it's a little bit different. If you've taken my course called Overcoming Overcommitment, this exercise is a little bit like the one that we do in that course, although it's slightly different. You'll see if you've taken that course. But basically, the objective here, in the previous one, you're trying to think about all of your areas of stewardship from a really high level. Here, you're looking at all of your obligations from a high level. You're trying to get them all out of your head and into a space you can actually deal with them. Okay. So what do I mean when I say a commitment? This is a really broad category. A commitment is anything that you have agreed to do, whether it's an obligation for somebody else, like maybe it's a thing you have to do for work, or something you've decided you want to do yourself. So it's a goal that you have. So the way I like to refer to commitments is, this is the stuff that's occupying your mental energy. If you're feeling overwhelmed, if you're feeling busy, and someone says, hey, why are you feeling so busy? This is the stuff you would start listing. You say, oh, I got to take the car in. I got, the kids are starting up this new thing. I have this project I need to finish, right? This is the stuff you would start listing for why you're busy. So what we want to do is get this stuff out of our head. We want to get this stuff out of our head, because here's the thing. The reason you're feeling overwhelmed, the reason you feel busy, is because you're trying to juggle too many things in your brain. So tell me if this sounds familiar. You start thinking about, oh yeah, there's that thing I need to finish. And so you start thinking about it. And while you're in the middle of thinking about it and saying, okay, how am I going to tackle that? It triggers another thing. You're like, oh, and I also need to do that. And so you set that one aside and you're like, okay, how do I deal with this one? I guess I'll need to do that. Oh, wait, but then there's this other thing I need to do. And so you're kind of like juggling these things around in your mind. And then what happens? You start feeling overwhelmed. It's too much stuff to be holding in your head. So what we want to do here, and let me just say this, if you do none of the other stuff in this webinar, do this exercise after we're done here. This is, I think, the most high value thing you can do. And this is just making an exhaustive list of your commitments. So I do this quite often, probably embarrassingly often for somebody who talks about productivity for a living. But the objective here is get it all out of your head, right? Yeah, spinning plates. I love that illustration. Yeah, Bodhi, you're right on. It helps to do this by domain, right? There's different ways you can trigger these. But the idea is you get a blank piece of paper. At least this is how I like to do it. You can do it on a computer too. But even if you keep a to-do list, or have like a fancy software like I do, I use Things on my computer and all my devices to keep my to-do lists and my projects straight. Even though I have all this, I still find it helpful to get a blank piece of paper, get away from the computer, and just bleh, everything that's in my head, all the commitments, just try to get them out. Like Jody says, it's a brain dump. You're trying to get it all out on paper. Why? Because then you're not doing that juggling thing. You've downloaded it from your brain onto something you can look at, and then you can rearrange it, and then you can take next steps. And I'm not kidding when I tell you, just writing these things down, even if you don't even do the other steps, will be enough to give you some peace of mind. You just got to get it out of your head. So, what do you do to make an exhaustive list? Well, first, make a list of every commitment you can possibly think of. Now, I would start by setting aside maybe 15 minutes, half an hour. Like I said, get alone, get away from the computer, get away from distractions, and just start writing out stuff as it comes to you. Bodhi mentioned in the chat that going through that wheel, those 6 domains, that can be a trigger. Like, okay, so what are the commitments in this area of my life? This area, this area. If you want some more help, like spurring your thinking, if you search for Google for David Allen's trigger list, I think it's called a trigger list, that will give you sort of a bunch of different ideas for areas of life that you might have outstanding commitments in. And so put some time to this and try to get it all out on paper. But I'll tell you this, you won't get them all out most likely in a single sitting. So after you do that sitting, carry this paper around with you for the whole day. And you'll come across stuff as you're going through your day and you say, oh, I'll add that to the list. I'll add that to the list. But usually by the end of the day, once you've done this, you'll have a pretty long list. I only put 5 on this one for illustration purposes, but you'll have a pretty long list and it'll all be out of your head. So now what do you do with this list? Well, you burn it and then you go on vacation. No, you don't burn it. We're not going to burn it yet. Well, what you want to do next is you want to order the list in terms of importance. And so since it's like a brain dump, you're not putting them down in order. You're just throwing them out as they come to you. Now what you want to do is just kind of follow your gut on this. Of course, pray over it before you start. Ask the Lord for his help. You know, it says in James that if anyone asks for wisdom, God gives it to us. Ask for wisdom as you address these commitments you have, and then number them. And like I said, since it's a blank piece of paper, you can make this real messy. If you make something number 1, then you realize later on, you're like, no, this should be number 1. Just cross it out, draw an arrow. This is just scratch paper like on a math test. You're just trying to work with it. Then eliminate everything but the first 3. Now, you don't have to throw the other list away. What I usually do is I copy these to a new piece of paper just to kind of like focus me. But these top 3 things, these are the ones, these are the 80% these are the 20% that are taking up 80% of your attention. These are the big things. And I would bet you that if you deal with the top 3 things, the rest of it starts to cascade and become a lot easier. So that's what I like to do is nail down the top 3, just circle them, or like I said, write them to a new piece of paper. And then you want to decide the next action for each of them. And what I mean, and this also comes from David Allen in Getting Things Done, and I just think it's common grace wisdom. A lot of times, the problem with our commitments or our goals or the things we have on our to-do list is we're procrastinating on them because we don't know what to do next. I once heard somebody say that procrastination is your brain telling you that you don't have a plan. Procrastination is your brain telling you you don't have a plan. So what we need to do is back up a little bit and say, what is the next physical action I can take on these? And what I mean by physical action is you don't write like decide to do this. It's what can you actually do? So in these examples, one of mine, like say my number 1 priority is I'm going to be leading a Bible study in the fall. And I'm kind of overwhelmed by it because the date gets closer and closer. What do I do? Well, the next thing I should do is figure out what passage or what book of the Bible we're going to be studying. Because if I decide that, that's sort of my lead domino. That's the thing that everything else becomes easier after. Yeah, Stephanie shared we're moving in less than 5 weeks and keep procrastinating on packing. Yeah, so that's a great one to tackle. What is the next physical action? There's probably several things in your mind that are competing for first place, and that's why you're procrastinating, because you're not sure, should I do this one, or this one? Pick the one that you think is the next thing that needs to happen, and then write it down. And once you start going on that, the other stuff just falls behind. Get oil changed on my list, schedule a day for that. Just put it on your calendar. So many things, by the way, guys, this is a great tip. So many things you're procrastinating on can be overcome by opening up your calendar app and putting a calendar reminder with a time, like a notification. So it pops up to do it at a specific time. Just say like, my the oil thing on my car has been going off for weeks. Okay. Say next Thursday after work, I'm getting the oil done. And then it's as good as done because it's going to get a reminder at the end of the day and you're going to go do it on your way home. And then the last one I have, finished project, another example. Sometimes you're procrastinating because you just don't have all the information. So finished project, I said, gather all the documents. So list every commitment you can think of, order the list in terms of importance, take the top 3 items and decide a next action for each of them. If you just do this, guys, you're going to feel yourself become lighter. You can cancel your exercise program because you will physically become lighter. This is a weight loss program for your mind. It helps so much. Okay, and then what do we do with each of these, the rest of the list? You can do this with the top 3 as well, but this is something if you've read much about productivity in other places, this is something you'll be familiar with. There's really only 4 things you can do with a commitment. You can either delete it or drop it. You can delegate it, you can defer it, or you can do it. Right? Those are your only options. If you have something you've committed to do, you can uncommit to do it. You can give it to somebody else. You can put it off, like schedule it for later, or you can just do it right now. It's kind of nice to know those are the only options, right? And they've come up with a great way to do this. This is not original to me by any means. The Eisenhower Matrix it looks complicated. It's really not. So on the y-axis here, you have not important to important. And on the x-axis, you have urgent to not urgent. So important means that it's high value. It's in line with your priorities. It needs to be done. Urgent means that there's a time component to it. Somebody's depending on it happening at a certain time. And so in the bottom right quadrant, we have delete. What items did you delete? The ones that aren't urgent or important. Sometimes we let stuff take up a ton of mental space, but there's no urgency. It doesn't need to happen right now. And it's not even really in line with your priorities. I'm betting you a lot of the stuff on that commitment list doesn't matter. You can delete it. If it's important enough, it'll come up again later, but you can just cross stuff right off the list that is not urgent or important. Moving over here to the bottom left one, here's the stuff that's urgent, but not important. So there is a time component to it. It does need to happen within a certain amount of time, but it's not really in line with your priorities. This kind of stuff is best to delegate. Now, delegate, it sounds like you have to have a bunch of people working for you, and you say, I'll give that to my assistant. Well, if you don't have an assistant and you don't talk like a 1950s office worker, who do you give it to? Well, delegate has a broader, I use it broader than that. If you have somebody you can give stuff to, that's great. But sometimes delegate, if it's a work environment, means going back to your boss and saying, I have these 3 projects. I believe these ones are the most important, but I can't also do this one. Is there someone else we can give this to? Even within your family, often, my wife and I, our levels of busyness will be at different places. They ebb and flow. So sometimes she'll have a lot on her plate and I won't have a lot on mine. And so I can take some of the things, she can delegate stuff to me, and then vice versa. I have some things that need to be done. I can say, hey, can you take care of this? That's for the stuff that's urgent or not important. Top right is the stuff that is important. So this is in line with your priorities. It's in line with stuff that does need to happen, but it's not urgent. There's no time component. Well, guess what? Delay it. This says decide. It should say defer. But the idea is that you schedule it. Again, put something on your calendar, or if you use a reminders app, put something that's going to tell you at an appropriate time weeks from now, and then forget about it because you know the thing will remind you. Do you see your list is starting to really diminish now if you're going through these? And then what's left? Well, this will hopefully be the top 3 that you had. That's the stuff that really is important and truly is urgent. It needs to be done. That's the stuff you need to do now. That's the stuff you need to set a next action for. But this will help you whittle down that list of commitments and will give you a really nice ordered action plan to what you need to tackle and in what order. And let me just give you a piece of encouragement. Jesus says in Matthew 6:34, do not be anxious about tomorrow, for tomorrow will be anxious for itself. Sufficient for the day is its own trouble. This, you remember, Jesus tells this to his disciples in the context of saying, hey, don't worry about food and don't worry about clothing. Much more serious matters than most of us are dealing with when we're feeling overwhelmed and worried, right? Like they're talking about literally like, where am I going to get a shirt and a sandwich? And we're worried about, am I going to get this done on time? Because it's going to cost me social credit or something. And my point is not to diminish uh, your problems or whatever, but to cast them in the light of a God who cares for us. We don't need to be so worried. We ought not to be so worried. The God who clothes the lilies and who feeds the sparrows cares for you. The right stuff will get done. Trust him, commit it to him in prayer, be diligent, yes, but you don't need to worry because you serve the God who has the whole world in his hands. So be encouraged. Is this helpful so far, guys? Let me know in the chat. You finding this helpful? What's been most helpful so far? We're going to jump in next to realign your habits. The 4D thing, good reminder. Good. Excellent. I'm glad it's helpful, guys. Yeah, do the brain dump tomorrow. Yeah, and that's the thing too. Don't feel like you can do all this right now. That's again why I'm going to send you the slide deck and the video as well. Like you can do this all on your own time and put it into action. But I would encourage you, do put it into action. Don't just walk away and say these are good ideas. Walk away and do it, and you'll feel that sense of calm as you start to tackle these things. Okay, so this is the last little piece of our I was going to call this a party. I guess it is a party. It's a productivity party. Welcome. So this is the last thing we're going to do. We talked about clarifying your priorities. We have talked about listing your commitments. What about your habits? What about your habits? I like to say that good habits die in the summer heat. It's just, they just dry up in the sun. And this is the case for me every year. Especially, and I'm just being honest with you, my Bible reading plans. When you try to do the Bible in a year, like summer is the hardest. Why? Well, our schedules get out of whack, right? If you've got a nice morning routine going, if you've got a nice little thing where you're doing on your lunch break or something, as soon as that schedule goes away, the habit goes away. Maybe you were really doing well with praying consistently, and now that's gone to the wayside. Exercise, you were reading more often, and now you're not. Although sometimes summer is a good time to catch up on reading, or even like other stuff with your family. You were doing things that were really helpful, and you've fallen out of practice with them. Well, what do? Well, we got to reset. We got to reset because now we have the as much as the September slump is a real thing. It's also an opportunity because it means that regularity has been brought back to your life. There is a schedule. So the trick is, let's start slotting habits back in around that consistent schedule. And if we do that, then they're going to stick again. But a lot of times the problem is getting out of your head. So where do we begin? Well, if you have a lot of habits that you've fallen out of practice with, which ones should you start with? I would argue you start with the spiritual disciplines. And I appreciate what Brian just said. He said, forgive yourself. I think that's an important thing to remember too. And I didn't put a slide in here about it, but it is important. One of the things is, you think about productivity as a Christian, is one of the advantages we have, as you could put it that way, is that we're under grace. And that means, yeah, it stinks if you've fallen out of practice with your spiritual disciplines or these other habits. And it's easy to start beating yourself up, right? But you're under grace. Get back up. If there's sin in that, confess it, ask for God's help, and get back up. That it's a wonderful thing to know that you don't need to just beat yourself up or do any of that. But where should you start? Well, I would say start with the spiritual disciplines. Why? Well, it might seem like an obvious answer, but I'm going to explain why to you anyway. This is John 15:5. I always tell people this is my favorite passage on productivity in the New Testament, because It covers so much of what it means to be productive as a Christian. This, of course, is in the context of Jesus, his famous thing where he's talking about, I'm the vine, you're the branches. This is John 15:5. I am the vine, you are the branches. Whoever abides in me and I in him, he it is that bears much fruit. For apart from me, you can do nothing. I say this is about productivity because it's about bearing much fruit. And in context, the fruit that he's talking about is the fruit of good works. It's not good works that save you, but when you are saved, when you're united to Jesus Christ by faith, a transformation happens within you, and you receive his Holy Spirit such that you become a person who organically produces good fruit. You bear much fruit. So it's by virtue of your union with Christ by faith. So as a Christian, when I think about productivity, I'm not just thinking about how do I get more random stuff done. I'm thinking about how does every part of my life manifest as a good work? How do I bear as much good fruit as possible? Because that good fruit is what glorifies God, right? See the connection? But what you also see in this verse is in this metaphor, I'm the vine, you are the branches. He says, whoever abides in me and I in him, he it is that bears much fruit. For apart from me, you can do nothing. All the best productivity systems in the world. You could read this I have a whole stack of books off camera here of like all the productivity books that I can possibly think about that you've ever even heard of. But none of those are going to help you be productive in the way that counts for eternity, which is good works, things that please God. The only way those can help in kind of scaffolding you, giving you some tools. But ultimately, what matters is, are you connected to the true vine? Of course, first by faith in Jesus Christ, that you are a Christian, but are you walking with him? And so that's why the spiritual disciplines are so important. I drew a picture to help us with this. So that's my attempt at drawing a grapevine with the branches on it, right? And so in the metaphor, Jesus is the vine, right? He's this main part. Where are you? Oh, that's me over here. I'm a little branch. I have leaves and everything. So that's us, right? He's the vine, we're the branches. And what happens? Well, our good works or the fruit we bear comes off of us, the branches. But if you notice what he was talking about, where does the power to produce this good fruit come from? Well, it comes from our connection to the vine, right? Whoever abides in me will bear much fruit. For apart from me, you can do nothing. And so I always ask myself, if I have to start with one habit, where do I start? Where should my attention first be? Should it be about being organized? I should get organized, but first I need to make sure that I am focused on my connection to the vine. I need to make sure I'm walking closely with Christ. You're not going to bear the fruit that pleases him. You're not going to be productive in the way that matters if you don't focus on walking daily with Jesus Christ. And so I say this, true productivity is a byproduct of a close walk with Jesus Christ. And now we can use habits, we can use productivity disciplines to help us keep these habits in place. But ultimately, you got to focus on those disciplines. That's the place to start. So I might be projecting a little bit here, but Bible reading plans. If you guys do Bible in a year plan, I'm guessing some of you, if you're like me, it's fallen apart a little bit. How do we kickstart this one? Well, one way is to pick up where you left off. And here's where I think that there's this mental game, and I would even say this may be even spiritual warfare. I don't know what it is, but when I fall off the wagon with a Bible reading plan, where it's like, oh, I should have been here by June, but I'm all the way back in May still. I kind of almost say, well, oh, well, I'm not going to finish the Bible reading plan. So what's the point in keeping going? I'm not going to finish it in a year. But that's pretty foolish, isn't it? Because the point of the Bible reading plan wasn't to finish it. Like, it's just a vehicle to help you walk with the Lord daily, to help you know him a little bit better. So if you are on the May part of your Bible reading plan and it's September, then why not just turn it into your 1-year Bible reading plan, turn it into a 2-year plan. Just pick up where you left off and keep going. There's no reason to stay in that headspace of saying, oh, well, if I don't finish the Bible in a year, it didn't matter. No, that's crazy. That's crazy. Just get back in the Word. Another option is just quit that Bible reading plan. Because again, it's not about the plan. Do a fresh start. Do something totally different. I always tell people that are not in the habit of reading the Bible, one of the easiest things to do is you don't have to get super complicated. You don't have to bite off more than you can chew. Just read a chapter a day, one chapter. You can do that. Just start in Matthew, start somewhere in the New Testament, and just read one chapter. It takes like 5 minutes. And just do that through the end of the year. And then you can try again on a Bible in a year plan if that's what you want to do. The point is just get back in the Word, whatever it takes. Don't fall prey to those silly ways of thinking that, oh, well, if I can't finish it, then there was no point. No, the point is to walk with your Lord daily. Here's a piece of common grace wisdom that applies for this habit and any habit. Write this one down. This comes from James Clear's book, Atomic Habits, in our Redeeming Productivity Academy membership program. We actually read this one a couple months ago in our book club. So it's kind of fresh in my mind, but it's not a Christian book, but he kind of reveals something in a very simple format that's just true of the way God's designed us. And that's that one great way to get a habit started is to create what Clear calls an implementation intention. And this is it. You can write this down. The intention is I will do blank behavior at blank time in blank location. Okay. There's 3 kind of variables to this, and you can do this for anything. So, excuse me, if I did Bible reading, I will read my Bible, or I would make that even more specific. I'd say I would do X Bible reading plan, or I'll read one chapter a day. When? At 8 a.m. Where? At the kitchen table, right? Once you solidify that, it turns it from just something you were kind of hoping you'll eventually get back with to an actual plan with a place and a time. And they've even done studies on this when people create implementation intentions. I can't remember what it is. I think it's in the 90s of percent. They're more likely to actually do the thing. But you can do it for more than just spiritual disciplines. You have other habits that have fallen off to the wayside. You can do the same thing. I will exercise or do blank exercise program at 5:30 p.m. at the gym. You get the idea. It's just behavior, time, location. This can help you restart any habit or start a new one as well. It's super helpful. Okay. So that is the third thing that I wanted to talk to you guys about. So we've talked about clarifying your priorities. And so hopefully you have been encouraged to finish the year strong. Hopefully you are feeling clear about your priorities and kind of a better visual on that. Hopefully you kind of have a roadmap to get your habits back on track and you're ready to tackle that. I really, really want to, my prayer for you is that you would take something from this, even if you don't do all of it, take something and put it into action. Don't just walk away. I said this earlier. Don't just walk away and say, oh, well, those were great ideas, but I don't think I'll do them, or maybe I'll get to them later. Pick one and do it today or tomorrow, but definitely tackle it. It's worth your time. And just want to say thank you for coming. I really appreciate you guys coming to this. It's my joy. It's my privilege to get to share this stuff with you. And if you wouldn't mind, the main part is over, but if you wouldn't mind, if I could have 5 more minutes of your time, I just want to tell you some next steps you could take if you want to. No pressure at all. But a lot of people, they come to this stuff and or they listen to my podcast, they read the articles and stuff. And like I was saying, you take away like, oh, that was a good idea. I would love to do more of that stuff, but you don't put it into action. And that's kind of what I want to tell you about here is a next step you could take. I have a program I mentioned about. A lot of the members of it are in here right now. This is the kind of stuff we do. I've just opened this one up publicly, but you can enroll in my program. It's called Redeeming Productivity Academy. And basically what it is, it's a gospel-centered membership program that helps believers. It's aimed at Christians. It helps them organize their lives for the glory of God in a community. This is a thing that's missing in a lot of times. Accountability, encouragement. How are you getting that? If you're not getting that in your local church for some of this more specific productivity stuff, that's what I'm seeking to provide through having this community online. And it takes that pyramid of productivity we talked about, and we go way deep on it. We apply it to everything from goal setting to, we talk about habits, we talk about to-do lists. I have a bunch of stuff on morning routines. We're adding more stuff all the time, but it basically gives you a holistic plan for how to put this stuff into action, how to, become that giant arrow pointing towards God, even in the mundane stuff of life. The one of the things if you guys have followed me for a while, you know that I do a lot of courses on productivity. They're all in this academy now. Literally, this is the best way to be a part of this stuff, to get some of these things. It's a ton. I think there's 6 of them now. I'm adding several more before the end of the year, and that's all available to you if you're in the academy. We have a community. A lot of the people are here. You guys heard from them. Awesome people, but we have a lot of fun in there. We do a book club. We read through basically productivity books and we discern through them together. Right now, we actually just started last week, Tiago Forte's Building a Second Brain. And so we're talking about this and trying to implement these things together, but kind of like pushing it through a Christian worldview so that we're spitting out the bones, but getting some of the common grace wisdom that can help us be more productive. We have expert workshops. That's the tool shed. I bring in people all the time to talk about different software, different techniques. We've had Don Latour did one on how to build your own workout routine. We have one coming up on financial stewardship and retirement. We have one coming up on marriage in just a couple of weeks. We're doing those every month. Accountability, so much awesome stuff is happening. The habit challenges, every month you can compete and win a prize if you do your habit for the month that you've chosen. We do quarterly goal setting workshops. We're actually doing one next week. If you join, you'll be a part of that, where we set a plan into action for the rest of the year. And we're going to help hold each other accountable to actually get that goal done. And then group coaching. You can come every Tuesday and talk with me and other members on a live video call, just like this, except for it's more interactive. You're actually talking. And we address productivity problems. We talk about the word. That's probably my favorite highlight of the week, is talking with the members in there. And really, this is the goal. I want to help you get more done for the glory of God. I love to do it through all the resources I put out there, but the Academy allows us to do that more intentionally, actually get to know each other and have that accountability element that is missing a lot of times when you're just consuming stuff at a distance. We have all kinds of people. If you're wondering this for me, we have a ton of full-time ministry people, pastors, missionaries. I think a lot of people on here are that. Christian professionals, homemakers, homeschoolers, students. We have a lot of college students, entrepreneurs, retirees. There's some of the funnest people in our community are the retirees, because they have more time on their hands and they're like, how do I use this extra time to glorify God? How do I use my golden years well? What's included in it? This is all the stuff that's in it. You get the 6 complete courses, access to the community, expert workshops, group coaching, book club. Coming soon, our members know about this. I've been teasing it to them. We have a new Notion template coming out called the Life Stewardship OS, or operating system, that's going to be available to all members. It basically puts that whole pyramid of productivity or pyramid of purpose into a complete system for your life. So you have stuff where to put everything, how to set goals, and it's all connected. I'm really excited. That's coming out in just a few weeks, Lord willing, and that's going to be a member benefit. And so it's a big value. I mean, I kind of am just kind of calculating, like, if you just did these expert workshops, the people that are coming in, if you paid to go to workshops with these people and we do 1 or more a month with them, you'd be paying through the nose for it. So it's a lot of value packed into this package. And I see you guys are asking questions. I'll answer them in just a second. There's a bunch of stuff. If you go to the website, I'll link to you in just a minute. It's redeemingproductivity.com/academy. There are a lot of, you can read more about these testimonials. Our members here, some of them give them testimonials in the chat, but we have about 120 or so members right now. A lot of people have been there for over a year, and people are enjoying it. They're benefiting from it. It's one of my favorite things is actually getting to go deeper with people on this stuff and hopefully be a help. And the cost of it is actually going up to $30 a month, but not yet. And members, don't worry, whatever price you come in at that's the price that you have forever. So our founding members, last year we started, they're at $20. You guys, up until next week, and everyone who's recent, it's $25 a month, and that's yours for life. As long as you stay a member, it will never go up. I'd like to reward the loyalty, but as we keep adding value, it does go up a little bit over time, the price of it. But if you lock in and join us before next week, you'll get it at the $25 a month. mark, or it's also $250 a year. So you can get basically 2 months free. Just a couple of highlights. These are actual quotes from people in the membership, and this could be you. Simplify your daily workflow, better focus, able to accomplish more, new perspective on stewardship, more fulfilling morning devotions, help me focus better to the glory of God, major blessing, no more lost tasks and ideas. I could go on, but here's the website. Again, no pressure. Like I will keep producing resources for free for as long as the Lord gives me strength. But this is also one of the ways that helps support this ministry. Is the people in here kind of help me to continue to produce all the other stuff as well. So if you're interested at all, just go to redeemingproductivity.com/academy, redeemingproductivity.com/academy. And that has all the information. You can sign up there. I saw that there's some questions, so let me deal with a couple of these questions over here. Keep asking them. I'll if you want to hang around, I'll keep answering questions. Yeah, G. Pattison Smith said, "Thanks, Regan. Do you have guys from the UK in the community?" We absolutely do. We have people from all over the world. So we do stuff at different time slots. So I kind of do everything based on Eastern time, but we'll do stuff at different times to accommodate the different time zones. So we'll do stuff at noon. Sometimes we'll do stuff at 9 a.m. Eastern. So that'll be the afternoon if you're in the UK. We do stuff at 3 p.m. So I try to rotate through times so that people in the different time zones have access to it. I saw somebody else ask, are they recorded? Yes, everything's recorded. So that's the cool thing. If you join today, not only do you do all the courses, all of those workshops, which we've been doing for over a year now, all of those recordings are there. You can learn how to DIY your fitness. I'm just seeing the ones that are on the screen right now. A beginner's guide to Apple shortcuts. There's a great one that shows you how to actually like leverage the Apple shortcuts on your phone to be more productive. There's tons of them. How to use Obsidian. Bodhi, who's here, taught one on Obsidian. Absolutely. Let's see, signing up right now. Excellent. Yeah, events are recorded. If you choose the monthly billing, is it 30 days per calendar month? I.e., if I signed up now, or am I paying for all of September, even though, so it's a rolling thing, Robbie. So it basically will bill you on the same day of the month every month. So it depends on how long the months are, but it's the 16th today, so it will bill you on the 16th every month. So if you do it now, it'll keep going. Yeah, the book club discussions are all archived. You also have instant access to all that. I think we've read 10 or 12 books by now. Those are all on there, and they're really fun to listen to because it's just Christians talking about being productive like Christians. Last thing, a couple of frequently asked questions. These will probably come up. If I didn't see your question, just post it again or keep asking questions. I'm happy to answer them. Course format. So there's all those courses. They are self-paced. It's not like a live cohort thing. The courses part, that's on demand. You can watch them at your own pace, but we do workshops that are live like this every month as well, and a lot of other live stuff, but those do get recorded. It is a 30-day money back guarantee. So if you want to try it for a month and you're like, I just don't feel like it's worth it to me, or I don't have the time for it, just send an email to support Redeeming Productivity and I will refund you. I'm not trying to, sucker anybody. I'm literally just trying to be a blessing to you. How long will I have access? As long as you remain a member, you have access to everything. You can be the book club, all the courses, all of that. Will the price ever change? I think I mentioned this, but whatever price you come in at, as long as you stay a member, you will stay at that price. So if, whatever, many years from now, when inflation goes even further through the roof and it costs, $10 million a month, you'll be on the same price and I'll be in the poorhouse. What if I've previously purchased courses? I will credit them towards your annual membership. This is a big thing. A lot of people don't take advantage of this. If you've bought like Power Mornings or my other courses, it's like a one-off. You just send me an email, tell me, I have them all in my system, but I'll check it for you and I'll give you a special coupon. So if you bought Power Mornings, which is like $97, a year membership is $250. So whatever that is, 250 minus that, it's like 153. That's how much it is. If you bought multiple courses, we have a couple people that are in there for free because they've bought multiple courses before. Let me know. I want you there. So send me an email. What happens after I enroll? Instant access to everything immediately. So redeemingproductivity.com/academy. Any questions, you can send them to support@redeemingproductivity.com. Happy to answer them. There's the website again. But Yeah, that's all I have, guys. I really appreciate you sticking around. I hope some of you choose to join us in there. I really pray it'll be a blessing to you. And I will send a recording of this and the slide deck to you. And I just appreciate you guys. I pray that the newsletter, the other stuff I'm doing is blessing you, is being useful, and that the Lord's using it to grow you.